The CFL Gambling Podcast Week 4 reaction show and power rankings episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win up to 325 times your entry with their brand new Pick 8. Sign up, and when you do, use the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. And yes, they do have Canadian Football League action. So hop on over there. UnderdogFantasy.com. Promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get the best data-driven props and picks from Rhythm. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm.
Hey, what's up, you degenerate gamblers? This is Bill Burr, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride, baby.
Welcome to the CFL Gambling Podcast Week 4 reaction show and power rankings. I can't get enough of this great music. Folks, we are back, and look, there's a pep in the step going on right now because we finally had a good week of action. Long overdue. When I say we, more so me. YouTube.com. Get on over there. It's a CFL Gambling Podcast. Check it all out, folks. You got to watch this show. And I'm going to just throw a flag on the play for the listeners out there, but we'll talk about that in a minute. If you're wondering who the hell you're listening to, my name is Colby Swinging Database Dan, a.k.a. Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
I'm probably drinking too much and celebrating too much and not sleeping. I would have killed a normal man, but no, that's gone. The medical advice I got from that was like being hit by lightning. Pretend it never happened and get on with your life.
I had to pretend the first 3 weeks didn't happen because I was circling week 4. I got the maker's mark on the rocks. Check out the Old Fashioned Football Podcast too. The cows finally came home to roost, my friend. I am joined by my co-host. He is the host of the Bottom Line. The Bottom Line Bombs. He's not the host of the Bottom Line Bombs. He is the host of the Old Fashioned Football Podcast. Check out the Bottom Line Bombs podcast too, though. See, the great CJ Sullivan hosts that one. You've also heard him on the NFL Gambling Podcast. Give it up for Justin Mark, aka J Mark. How are you? I know. Look, I had a great week, but you had an unbelievable week because I knew it was switching the photo. The huge tits parlay did cash. All right. I mean, boom. Gave this away on air. Hope you cashed in. But yes, I mean, look, we gave it away. I knew it was that energy that was going to bring it home. The change in the photo, that old photo will never come back to the show. And you hit your huge tits parlay. How are you doing, buddy? And how's everything?
Yeah, a couple things. If you're not watching on YouTube, got sunglasses on because CFL Gambling Podcast future's bright. Now that we got off the schneid, we got our mojo back. I'm not going to take full credit, but I did say I was going to fade you just so we could get our mojo back, and it worked. Hit the huge tits parlay. It was a smaller one, but that was all part of the plan, everybody. And yeah, just, I guess, recapping some of the things you said, absolutely check out the Bottom Line Bombs. Old Fashioned Football, not as funny, but we do have some funny moments. I have to ask you, from one of our episodes just recently, how do you like your chips and queso? Or do you just dip the chip in and you like that crunch with the queso?
What is the option?
Well,
what is the other option? I'm saying
Miranda likes to let her chips bathe until they are soggy.
No, that's horrible.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. I'm glad you're on my side.
Look, a lot of times in life, I've done a lot of stand up. All right. And not even stand up, I put myself in unique spots in life, whether a lot of it with stand up, but also some of it with just, being an idiot and, where you put yourself, like I toured Canada as just not doing stand up as a friend of a musician. So like, you go to a lot of places where like, that's your dinner. You know what I mean? So like you could really, especially in my 20s, I feel like that was a bummer, man. You know what I mean? You're at a football game, I can remember being at like Folsom Field in Colorado, just like completely shit hammered and eating a bunch of that. And the soggy one, it's a bummer. It's a bummer when that happens. So no, you cannot have soggy. Look, I mean, it's not going to stop me from eating that if I'm starving, but
sure.
I'd prefer it to not happen.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad you're on my side with the sane people, the regular people. I just thought I'd ask you, get your opinion on that. But no, we had a great week. And I'm pumped about it. And I think we both know the CFL. We both watch it. It took a little bit, and I think we're on our mark now. I'm not worried going forward.
There we go. Look, folks, also, before we dive into each game, want to tell you, you are listening to the CFL Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and the latest episode of SGP Stories is now out on Patreon. And myself and Sean Stagger the Money Green and Ryan Real Money Kramer from Sports Gambling Podcast, all three of us, do a Forensic Files style deep dive on the Bobby Petrino motorcycle accident that cost him his job. If you're not familiar, he was the Arkansas football coach about 10 years ago. And it's a funny story. I may or may not be wearing a neck brace with an Arkansas jacket and a Sugar Bowl hat on, but check it out. Plus, make sure to check out the WNBA Gambling Podcast, as Terrell and Scott have started out with Red Hot Locks. Get on over there and check that out. And remember, as always, folks, to let it ride. All right, back on the CFL Gambling Podcast. Shout out to All Around. I almost said shout around. Shout out to All Around Hustle. Went 4-0. We both went 3-1, and I have a lot to tell the audience here. And I haven't even discussed this with you. I gave away a DFS lineup that so you know how there's 4 games, 4 nights, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So Sunday night, all the other games are done. There's 1 game left. There's about 47 seconds on the clock. And I was in second place. Now, the bad news is Justin Hardy had just scored. And we got so much to talk about in that game, but the TiCats go down the field and score. And not only did they go down the field, Tim White had like a 55-yard kick return, which all the people behind me had Tim White. So as you can, I didn't know return yards count, man. I didn't realize that. Did you know that? Yeah,
I didn't realize that either. But it makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of leagues that kind of score that way. I mean, just thinking of like bigger fantasy football podiums, like the Scott Fish Bowl, they're big into, you get return yard points. So I think that's becoming more and more common. But no, we were in the same contest, and I saw you up there when I went to check my score, and I saw the top 10. I was like, oh, there's Colby. So I was tracking you. Dude,
when Justin Hardy scored with the minute left,
yeah,
I honestly thought I was going to get first place. Right? Mm-hmm. I was like, I'm right there. If there's a college football experience podcast I was doing while the game was on. And I couldn't pay attention to the big, whatever, I think it was Illinois in the Big Ten. I was like, I don't give a shit about Illinois right now. I'm trying to watch to see if I hit this. But here's my other problem. I still made $100. So I turned into 2 lineups, right? I ended up finishing 16th out of 500, which is crazy because I went from 2nd to 16th in the final 47 seconds of that game. That's brutal. Insane. That's insane. You know what I mean? Like, I had not moved. Coming into the day, I was in 6th place, right? I did not move from at one point, maybe I went down to 10, right? But I stayed in that vicinity all until the final 47 seconds. And had Tim White not had that big return, just brutal. But look, my point is we still made $100 because I had that one made $75 or $70, one of the two. And then the other one made 30. I gave away that exact lineup, the $70 one, on this very show. And that is 4 straight weeks. And you know how I know it's ridiculous from our listeners, and they're all on my shit list? Because I know no one else played it, because I would have had to share my money with them. At what point do we just buy in that we know what the fuck we're talking about from DFS? Okay, maybe you could shit on me for, starting out 1-11, which, like I said, finally 3 in 1 week. But come on, we've four straight weeks we've hit this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was actually kicking myself because normally, as you're giving your lineup out, I already have mine. I'm writing it down, and I usually turn it in as well. This is the first week I had not, so I was a little bummed about that. But also, you got more money that way, so I'm okay with it. Team player.
Yeah, there we go. Appreciate you. Anyway, though, let's get into it. And remember, Wednesday, Tuesday night, Wednesdays we're always going to be recording either Tuesday night or Wednesday morning. The pick show and DFS will be coming out then. Let's talk about game 1 here, because we got the slides and everything. Get all over. Check this thing out. The Edmonton Eskimos went to British Columbia. They were catching 6.5. Actually, I think I got this at 7, if memory serves me correct. Mm-hmm. They covered. The only problem is the over did not hit, which I played the over. Did you play the under?
I believe I did. Yeah.
And this game was closer than people, I think. I thought Edmonton was a good money line play. I even said it's worth taking a shot. Now they did get severely outgained, 31st downs to 17. BC had 423 passing yards, and the run game for BC is slowly improving, even though they got outgained. They had 92 yards on the ground. Had Edmonton not had 3 turnovers, they would have won on the money line. But BC gets that win. BC receiving core, I'm starting to buy in, man. Are they the second best team in the league? We'll have to talk about it at the end with the power rankings. But your thoughts on the game?
I mean, at what point do we start feeling bad for Edmonton? Because they keep giving in pretty decent efforts. They keep getting close. They can't just seem to win a damn game. And that seems like it's been their franchise for the past, 5 years. I mean, it's been tough for them where they get these close games and you think, oh, they're going to do it. And they don't. But no, I mean, it looked good. McLeod Bethel Thompson, again, kind of an up and down deal where he looked good at times, and there's times where it's like, should they try to mix in a little bit more there? And then Vernon Adams, I know he only threw for a touchdown, but
he's a stud though, man.
You tell me. I watched all the games, and I think he's probably the most exciting quarterback to watch in this league. Do you agree?
In a long time, I think probably. Look, Fajardo's playing great.
Right.
The Argos,
it's just not as exciting as Adams to me. Yeah.
He's lighting. It's like we haven't seen someone light up the. I guess Bo Levi Mitchell in his prime, but he's definitely on another level than everybody.
Yeah.
And it's fun to watch. And if you're a BC Lion fan, you're thinking this could be the magical year. You're hosting the Grey Cup, 111th Grey Cup, and this could be the year. All right. But yeah, and especially if the ground game keeps coming. I remember the first week or two, they're getting 20, 30 yards rushing. 92. It's still not great, but it's serviceable. Shout out to All Around Hustle. Quick random question: which one of these CFL quarterbacks, other than McLeod Bethel Thompson, can have a MVP season in the UFL? That is a good question. Well, I think a lot of these quarterbacks are good enough to play. We saw Brian Scott play well in the. Well, he played well this weekend when he got into limited action, but he also played well with the Philadelphia Stars in the USFL just a couple of years ago. McLeod Bethel Thompson looked good with the Breakers in the USFL as well. I think Vernon Adams would be a stud in that league. you know, and I also think Cody Fajardo is starting to impress me to believe that he could be. I don't think there's a lot of, you talk to these, me and J Mark host the UFL Gambling Podcast too. Sometimes you talk to these snobby people that, are alt football fans that think that the UFL is just like light years better than the CFL, or there's no real difference to me. Like, if anything, CFL is a better product in my opinion. Like, for my money, it's a better actual product. But I refuse to believe that there's some gigantic talent gap between now. But the Birmingham Stallions, I would like to see them play the Montreal Alouettes. I think it'd be great for the sport of football. But besides the Stallions, I would say, like, I think like a lot of the CFL teams are better than the XFL or the UFL teams. Would you agree with that, J Mark?
100% agree. As far as quarterbacks that could have MVP season, I think Vernon Adams is the easiest answer because of his dual threat. I mean, we saw how well Adrian Martinez did with dual threat. And honestly, I mean, you mentioned Brian Scott. He's a 2-time TSL Spring League MVP. Even Cameron Dukes. I know I kind of
he's good. He's good.
Yeah. And he's a dual threat guy. He can run too. So I think he could have success in that Spring League as well.
I think you could also sell me on potentially Jake Mayer. I think you could, the only ones I would say, like, flat out, I would question. I mean, I think both Levi Mitchell could play too, but I don't even know that I have one that I would. Shea Patterson, but he struggled in that league. And by the way, we should talk about that. That's news. He's starting. What was it? The next 6 games, was it?
I believe so. Yep.
And also, Lucky Whitehead signed with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We should talk about that. Lucky Whitehead's a good player in the CFL, was good in the NFL for a few years. But that would be my question. I don't think there's. I would argue, I could do an hour on the on some of the fans on the Reddits regarding alt football, but I think most could play at that level. I actually don't know that there's any that couldn't.
Comes down to coaching. I mean, that's what we kept saying in the UFL. It's all about the coaching.
I thought the USFL was better 2 years ago than the UFL last year.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, I think, had to do with coaching.
Agreed.
I'm talking about the product on the field. I thought was better. Now, obviously, there's no fans in the stands, so the UFL or XFL had that leg up on them. Shout out to David Matola, my boy. The problem with the CFL is that their producers don't have the stones to go head to head against the Final Four, the Masters, and their own games. Yeah, that's true. And he's making fun of the fact that the UFL and XFL and has gone toe to toe with those sports. Yeah, it's not the. I like that because CFL is much smarter. They say, hey, now I guess you could argue that the Grey Cup goes up against like the thick of the schedule in America, whether it's, you're getting like NBA, NHL, college football, NFL, college basketball all on at once. And I'm probably forgetting some, in November there. But I stand by the CFL, man. I think I've always loved this league. Since I was a kid, I started watching this league, and I've always thought the product was great. But anyway, the BC Lions, hey man, I think you can make a case. If you're a BC Lion fan, I think you can make a case that, week 1 was an abomination and that you're actually a really good team and that you can beat anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. 100% agree. I mean, we talked about it in the futures episode. If they can get in that mindset of, hey, all we got to do is make it to the championship and we're playing at home. Right. Yeah. And if they can just feed off that all year, then I think they're always going to be in it.
I agree. Look, we're going to talk about the second game. But before we do that, I want to tell you that the CFL Gambling Podcast is brought to you by Pick 8 and Underdog Fantasy. Yes, Pick 8 is now live. Create entries with up to 8 picks, and Underdog will automatically double flex entries so you can miss up to 2 picks and still win your entry. With more picks to make and extra ways to win, the excitement is higher than ever. And the best part, you can win up to 325 times the amount of money you originally enter. You can now use specials on Boost on all flexed entries. Don't miss your chance to try it out before it's gone. Sign up, and when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick, plus first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. Yes, they do have CFL action, and I've heard people say, well, I can't gamble in Canada, right? This is the old quarterback sneak, all right? The old play action, all right? UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Circa Survivor and Circa Millions. Circa Sports is back with their Circa Survivor and Circa Millions, giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes. And of course, Circa contests have no rake. Circa Millions, pick 5 NFL teams ATS each week and compete for $6 million or survive the NFL gauntlet to claim the $10 million prize. Sign up in person at Circa Sports between now and September 7th. And use a proxy to play from anywhere. As a matter of fact, we even have a deal with footballcontestproxy.com to save you $50 with the promo code SGP. So check that out. And if you don't have a trip booked for Las Vegas yet before football, well, may I recommend the Ultimate Contest Weekend. That's a great time to go out. You can hang out with my pals, Ryan, Real Money Kramer, and Shot Stacking the Money Green, and enjoy some of the open bar events at the greatest sports book in the world, August 22nd to August 24th. And remember, as always, folks, too, let it ride. All right, we are back on the CFL Gambling Podcast, and let's jump over to the best game. We thought it was going to be the best game of the weekend, but it was the best game as far as clout. But the Montreal Alouettes went to Toronto to take on the Argos, and they just did what the Alouettes do. It was like a fucking boa constrictor, man. They just like, as the game went on, they just choked him out. I feel like, surprisingly, they were outgained by about 23 yards, but some of that was the final drive. Surprisingly, only were able to rush for 25 yards, but I guess you don't need to run the ball with that pass defense that Toronto has had thus far. The turnover battle was even, but Cody Fajardo and really the Alouettes defense were the difference makers to me here. I laid the 3.5. I cashed just like I cashed on so I opened up 2-0 ATS. I did have the under here. I know you did too, which Brian Scott almost wrecked us. No surprise to me. Montreal. I mean, I think Toronto's good, and I wouldn't rule them out as a contender for the Grey Cup, but the Alouettes are just on a different level right now than everybody else, in my opinion. Maybe you could sell me on BC getting there, but I don't know. What's your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I 100% agree. Alouettes on a different level. Their defense, their front four, even when they're not blitzing, it seems like they're getting in the backfield quick. They're just and Cody Fajardo playing the best football he's ever played. It's going to be hard to beat them by any team. I mean, we've seen in the past years. Last year it was Toronto who only lost 2 games. That's out the Alouettes this year. I feel like they're only going to lose 2 or 3 games as long as everybody stays healthy. I got a little concerned at first when Caleb Evans came in. Cody Fajardo took a pretty big hit. I thought, oh shit, here we go. But Evans did all right. He only threw 3 passes, completed 2 of them, 49 yards and a touchdown. But yeah, I mean, this Montreal team seems to be on a different level right now than any other teams. They're very impressive. Fajardo is doing impressive. I think they focused all year. We weren't the only ones that were saying they shouldn't have won that Grey Cup. And I think they focused on that all off season, and it shows.
They have a chip on their shoulder.
They do, and they're playing like it. I mean, they're even at the end there with shout out. I gotta plug Brian Scott here a little bit. I thought he played great. I know the defense was a little lax, but even on some of those plays, they're blitzing him. They're trying to get after him. They got no quit, and I thought he did great. 5 for 5, 79 yards in the touchdown. It was nice to see him get in the game. I know Toronto loves Dukes, and I think Dukes has done a good job. He hasn't done anything to lose the job, but it was nice to see Brian Scott get some snaps there too. I thought that was good for him for his development in the CFL. I mean, he just entered the CFL last year, so it's nice to see him get in.
Yeah, I agree, and he looked good. The only problem is I kind of thought. Now, I mean, we both went with Montreal, but I was hoping it was going to be a closer game.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of dressed it up. It was 30-13, right? So, or 30-12, 14. Yeah, 30-12. That's what it was. Yeah. So I mean, but it's it was like we predicted. We just think their defense is on another level. Yep. I am a little surprised they were outgained, but like I said, that was if you go back to the final drive when you said the defense got a little lax, I think that kind of dilutes the stats in a way. Before we get to our next game, folks, I want to tell you the CFL Gambling Podcast is brought to you by Rhythm. If you're betting on player props, then you need to download Rhythm. Rhythm is the go-to sports betting tool that transforms complex data into actionable insights, empowering bettors with smarter, data-driven decisions. Unlike other platforms, Rhythm combines advanced predictive analytics with an intuitive user experience, making betting both easy and enjoyable. And Rhythm's predictive models were born from the brains of MIT data scientists and quants with over 3 years of data that help drive you to better AI-backed betting decisions. So claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. All right, we are back, and the next game was quite the game as the Winnipeg Blue Bombers went to Calgary. Man, Calgary won the yardage by 5 yards. Had 4 more first downs than these Blue Bombers, but Zach Collaros gets knocked out of the game. This Winnipeg team is just everybody's injured. When that happened, I actually thought for a second it might be a blessing in disguise because I'm drawing a blank on the backup quarterback, Streveler. When he came in, I like his game, man. I would get more creative with this game. They don't do enough designed quarterback draws and stuff or option reads with him. I think he's raw, but he has to me some skill that I think is underrated. Winnipeg, the turnover battle is probably the difference. The deep ball by Streveler in the end zone was so goddamn brutal. As much as I want to credit him, I don't know what the hell he saw there. That was just a critical interception. You just got to throw that thing away.
Yep.
But fun game to watch. Very fun game to watch. And Calgary, my over on Calgary is gonna hit. But I still didn't come away super impressed with Calgary though. Your thoughts on this game and the fun CFL matchup we had there in Alberta?
Yeah, no. Well, first of all, I agree with you. Almost a blessing in disguise. Streveler, he's got a lot of learning to do. I feel like. I mean, he, like you said, very raw, but he's so much more mobile than Collaros is.
Well, they got to utilize that though, man.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't stand it. We talk about this all the time in the UFL. Football. How do I say this correctly? I'm a huge college football guy, right? You go back to the NFL in the 80s and 90s. They would all, with the exception of Randall Cunningham and maybe Steve Young, and even with Steve Young, I feel like they didn't know what to do with it. And he was a backup until the 90s. They didn't know how to market. Like, it's mind numbing to me that you can have a guy with the ball in his hands every single play and have him not be athletic. Right. College football, I thought was way ahead of the curve, whether, as far as just, hey, we have an athlete, let's give him the ball. And now the NFL is figuring that out some. I feel like a lot of the NFL has mobile quarterbacks. They don't run them because there's an investment in them that is absurd, which to me, I think hurts the NFL's product personally, because the guaranteed money is so absurd. They don't want to run their quarterbacks. But in football in general, like football 101, I don't give a shit if you're playing ankle biters. All right. It's a no-brainer to me. You just dumb down the game. I think Skip Holtz and the Birmingham Stallions do such a great job of simplifying the game. Football is complex, but it doesn't have to be complex when you have better players, right? Or you have a certain skill set. I understand they weren't planning on him getting that many snaps, but I also think based on this season, he's better than Zach Collaros, right?
Yeah.
And he's always popped when he comes in on these little gadget plays. I'm like, they need to give him the ball more, right? He's fucking massive. First off, he's like, and I really think like he's a matchup problem. They should utilize it more. option read is something, and I know I preached this on. It's a simple game, though. Is my point. Like it's when you have someone that seems that much bigger and stronger and athletic, you got to adjust to his skill set first. But also, it's football. You can. I was I remember playing a game where we called the same play seven times in a row. We just flipped it, right? And it was successful. We scored a touchdown on that drive, right? Now I didn't play in a pro football level, but I'm saying my point is like that sometimes I think we can get in our own way. You know what I mean? And to me, when they were running him, and I know they weren't designed necessarily, it was successful. I would have been miking into him saying, "Hey, let's run. If something's there, if it's wide open, because I know he's not super accurate, then you throw it. And if not, you use your legs and let's make them pay." But anyway, I don't know. I feel like he moving forward, I do think he's their best chance of winning.
Especially with that offensive line. I mean, that's the biggest thing. With that offensive line, you can't have a lawn chair guy like Zach Collaros in there. You got to have, and that's no offense to Zach Collaros. He's had a great career in the CFL, but you got to have a guy that can move outside like Streveler is. The accuracy and all that, I think it'll get there.
He had one pass that was fucking fantastic, and then he had a couple that were nightmares. But he had one pass that I was jaw dropping to me.
I feel like it was this was more pressure on him than if they were undefeated right now. I feel like because he comes in for the injured Collaros, and it's like, we haven't won a game. I have an opportunity to get us our first win. This is a big deal. I feel like that was more pressure on him than if they were undefeated and he came in, and maybe that's what kind of derailed some of that accuracy, got in his own head. But yeah, I mean, shout out to the Stampeders. Obviously went into overtime, and they stuck with it and they won the game. I mean, I feel like they have committed to the run more than any of these other CFL teams have right now. They ran Dedrick Mills 16 times.
There only 69 yards. Only 69 yards as a team.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, not a lot of yards there, but they're committed to the run, and I like that. I think that's going to pay out in the end. That's going to help them.
Agreed. And like I said, I think my Calgary overplay. Now we're eating shit on the Winnipeg over. That's cooked. But some of the other plays, like I was on some of those basement dwellers. Edmonton, though, I think I took the over on Edmonton too, though, which is we're gonna need every single week to watch that thing. But Calgary and Saskatchewan, I'm looking pretty damn good. Folks, I see 275 people watching live. Hit that like and subscribe button. We are the CFL Gambling Podcast. Please, if you can, hop over to iTunes, give us a 5-star review. We'd appreciate that. Sponsors like seeing that stuff. I'm trying to get that fucking Molson money. You know what I mean? That Labatt Blue money. That Seagram 7. You know what I mean? Goddamn, what's the popular one? Crown Royal. Yeah. Pendleton. Always was a Terry Pendleton guy for the Atlanta Braves. Yeah. So get on over there. Please, if you can, youtube.com, type in CFL Gambling Podcast. You'll get us as well. Yeah. So fun one there. And I started off 3-0, and I was convinced. I know by now you'd already hit your Pam Anderson huge tits parlay, but I was convinced that I couldn't get a game wrong. And my huge tits parlay was going to come in. Mine was juicy, dude. Mine was the fake tits were leaking. They're spraying everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, but the final game, which I just need to do, like, I could do an hour-long podcast on this game. So I had the TiCats money line. And if you notice this, the TiCats, they outgained Ottawa by 60 yards. Just about, I think it was like 50, 56, right? 54. This is, they're undefeated in yardage battles.
Yeah.
This was so pathetic down the stretch, man. Like the kick return by Ottawa after Tim White had done that for you and taken it 55 yards or 35 yards, whatever the fuck it was, to get you into pretty much scoring position, just start your drive. And then Bo Levi Mitchell was able to connect. They used Tim White as a decoy. And to get that, which potentially could be your first win. You could see the energy of the team. And there's only 23 seconds. I don't even remember the amount, right? It was pathetic to me. The very next kickoff, the guy takes it, pretty much like duplicates what Tim White did. And then with 2 easy passes, I don't like this Hamilton team, dude. And I know we have a future on them. They play football like pussies to me. And it's hard to root for that. You know what I mean? It's like they've killed it yards wise. They even won the turnover battle here. And by the way, oh my God. That's the defense that I played. So last night, in DFS, I have Hamilton and I have Justin Hardy. In the final 5 minutes of that game, final 7 minutes, I'll say, they had 3 dropped interceptions that I don't even. Now, one of them was a defensive lineman. I'm okay. Let that one go because he's not used to picking the ball off. But the other 2, oh my God. One of them would have been a flat out pick 6, right? Like it would have been gone the other way. Maybe the quarterback tackles him. I don't know. But just from a DFS point of view, you don't get an easier gift than having the ball just thrown directly to you. One of them was almost like a miscommunication, and it just went right to the defensive back, and he drops it. He's thinking about running before he catches it. That was brutal from my DFS point of view, but that's what I mean by this team, though. They find ways to lose the game to me. That game should have never even got into that situation. If they intercept one of those balls, they had the lead at that point. I know Ottawa went on this big drive to get the lead, but I'm saying like they would have been in a spot. One of those was a pick 6. One of them, the game is probably over. If probably 6-7 minutes left in the 4th, it's a pick 6 and they're already up a decent amount. I don't like this team. I have a hard time rooting for this team. Shout out to Ottawa for getting it done, even though I'm still a skeptic on their team, but at least they won the fucking game. Like they showed a little bit of grit. Your thoughts on this one?
Well, first of all, I mentioned to you, the listeners don't know this, watching my 7-year-old nephew and 4-year-old niece this week. And this game was getting ready to start. I should have tweeted out, but it was like 2 minutes before. And I asked my nephew, pick between these names who's going to score first. And he picked Tim White, 8.5 to 1.
Woo!
So thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
He did that.
You got to get him over at the house a little more. How old is this guy?
He's 7.
All right. Well, he clearly knows more than us.
Well, I don't
go.
Brain bag.
He did ask me, so if that wins, do I get some of that money? It's like, well, we'll see.
Like, how would you like a thing called a Snickers?
Right.
I
did buy him a Hot Wheels today at the Dollar Tree. So there you go.
There you go. There you go.
But no, I mean, this game was good. I wanted to pick Hamilton. I was set on, I'm going to go against your pick, and all that. And I kind of convinced myself that the Redblacks, they played so well against Winnipeg at home. The defense looked so good at home that maybe the defense can look that good again. This was a really fun game to watch. I thought I saw some complaints.
Best game of the weekend, probably.
Yeah, and I saw
maybe the Winnipeg thing. Really, who about what? What was the complaint? The kicking?
Just that it was slow, because it started a little bit slow. I mean, there was the first score, and then there was 6. I guess there was 9 points in quarter 2 and quarter 3. A former CFL player talked about how slow it was, and that he was bored of it.
Is this Milt Stiegel? Yeah.
I don't remember who it was, to be honest, but it was like, I thought it was a fun game to watch. Both defenses were doing pretty well. Hamilton, I don't know how, I mean, their offense is so good, right? Their defense has looked good. They just can't seem to win games. And I don't know.
Their defense is horrible with the game on the line. Like, I know that statistically the defense puts up good numbers. It's actually hard for me to comprehend because I feel like most of the time football is kind of like, how do I say this? I feel like most of the time, whether it's UFL, whether it's USFL, whether it's World League or NFL Europe or NFL or college or CFL, normally a good defense, the stats do represent what is a good defense. The CFL here, I really think I don't trust this defense. I think they're pussies. I think they play like pussies, but
they do seem to run out of energy too.
Yeah, it's like, dude, on the kick return by Ottawa, and I'm drawing a blank on the guy who returned the kick. My apologies, but he was wrapped up like 15 yards before that.
Yeah,
if the game is on the line, and a guy is trying to wrap you up, like you're winless. How do you not make that tackle, man? You know what I mean? Like, how do you not make that tackle? And of course I had +1.5. I know that I think some people got a 2. I had 1.5, so I lost on this. I also took the over, which did not hit. Yeah, so I ate shit on this final game, but had a really good week otherwise, especially considering DFS mixed in with a 3-1 ATS record. Anything else you want to say about this game?
No, Hamilton can't finish games. I mean, and I think the Redblacks are changing the narrative that they're bad at home. I think they're going to be decent at home this year. I
don't know how much I'm impressed with them. Like, it was a gritty win, and that to me can always breed, that you need wins like that as a franchise. We see Edmonton; they would love to get a win like that. But the Eskimos have been falling around. They just can't get it done. They can't get it done. But
Hamilton would love to get a win like that.
But they're not gritty. They're bitches. They play like little bitches, dude. Like it drives me fucking crazy. Like watching their pass. It's like it's so predictable. Like, okay, Ottawa's in field goal range if they get like 20, if they get like 14 yards. And to give that guy the inside like that on the first, they had 2 completions, but on the first one, I just said, man, come on, man. They're going to, I'd rather get beat for a touchdown on a deep ball because they're going to do this. They're going to play it conservative because they know a field goal wins the game. Yeah. The underneath they're going to look for. It's like, I remember the Jets had Greg Williams as a DC and he got fired for this, but he went all in on the final drive. I'm okay with that to me. And I thought our media here in America was ridiculous for butchering. I argued with my buddies in the office about, I was like, no, you play to win. You don't play to sit there and let them just, I don't know. I just lost a lot of respect for Hamilton. That's the second time they've done that shit too with the game on the line. We'll see. I know we have our future. Is it officially cooked?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. All right. And look, if you wanted, I was that close to hitting my huge tits parlay. Didn't come through. Calgary +150, and Hamilton had the lead with 25 seconds left. Unbelievable. But J-Mark cashed. He cashed. And I'm telling you, people are going to start watching Baywatch again based off these. We're hitting one every week. All right? We're going to get this. Finally hitting our huge tits parlay. It only took 4 weeks, but anyway, let's get to our power rankings here before we get out of here. At number 9, there's 9 CFL teams, folks, in case you are new to the Canadian Football League. It's the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Now, I will say, I haven't got. Have you seen anything about Collaros' injury? Is he out indefinitely?
Have not seen yet.
I actually think, and I made this case a minute ago, I guess. I think if Streveler's their starting quarterback next week, I actually think the team improved.
Yeah.
So maybe we look for them on the money line if that's the case. But Winnipeg is my number 9 team. How about you?
Yeah, I had them there last week. I got them there again, and yeah, they're probably close to some of the other teams that are at the bottom here, but they're supposed to be good, and that's why
they were our number 1 team coming into the season. Not only ours, they were Las Vegas's number 1 team.
Yeah,
unbelievable. Everyone with the future, and I think I convinced our friend, host of the Bottom Line Bomb, CJ Sullivan, to take a future on the Bombers. He doesn't follow the league as religiously as us, and he's probably just sitting there like,
well I don't get break, man.
And he's definitely probably sitting there, just I feel bad for him because he probably watches a little bit here and there, but he's definitely
The fuck is that?
doing that. Number 8, I have the Hamilton TiCats because they play like bitches.
Yeah, I have Edmonton, but I could make a case for either.
Edmonton at least plays hard.
That's true.
There's nothing worse than to me like playing like little bitches. You know what I mean? Like Hamilton reminds me of like the San Antonio Brahmas or something. You know what I mean? Like they are one of these teams, Arlington Renegades from last year. Yeah. Anyway, at number 7, I have the Ottawa Redblacks. You got momentum. I know you have 2 wins, and I do have a winless team higher than you, but I still don't think you looked good, but you got the win. Be happy.
I'm excited that the Reddit crowd is going to go after you this week. And
bring it on. Let's go.
I have Hamilton at 7. Kind of like you said, they are kind of a little bitches. Their offense seems to move the ball really well. They just can't win games.
Yeah. It's very frustrating. It's very frustrating to watch. And the Reddit crowd, I had to remember I got kicked out of the UFL Reddit. And one of the best things is like, I don't really know how to use Reddit that much, or I don't care to learn it.
Yeah.
I didn't know I had like a sitting DM in Reddit of like, now, you're 86th and not allowed to be here. And I'm just like, the guy was talking shit to me. Like I give a fuck about being kicked out of Reddit.
That's awesome.
I just love that. Like you got to be such a loser to actually like hold that as like some type of pass. You know what I mean? Like it means something. Who gives a fuck? You know what I mean? But anyway, yeah, at number 6 for me, I do have the Edmonton Eskimos, and I do like their fight, man. They play with fight and grit, and that alone, I know you can argue the Ottawa thing. Ottawa's 2-1, but I'll be honest, they haven't played each other yet. I think Edmonton's better. We'll see.
Yeah,
that's the beauty of the league. Who do you got at number 6?
Number 6, I do have Ottawa. I think their defense is pretty good. And Drew Brown is going through a little bit of growing pains, I feel like, being the starter and everything. But I think they're better on offense than they have been the past several years. And that's what they've needed. They need an offense that can keep up with a good defense. So I like what I've seen so far.
Yeah. I mean, look, they're 2-1. Winning's contagious. They didn't look great to me the other night, but you won the game. So, I mean, that's how many great football teams have won games when they look like shit. You know what I mean? It happens all the time. Yeah. Those are the great ones normally. So one small step for Pick Dundee, one giant step for the goddamn Ottawa Redblacks. All right. I think JFK said that somewhere before a bullet blew up his brain, but might have been 24 hours before at the Rice Bowl. But anyway, at number 5, I am going with the Stampeders. This one wasn't. You could make a case Ottawa's better than the Stampeders too, but I was impressed. I think it was week 1 with the Stampeders. I was like, came away really impressed with them. This one was not a pretty win by any means. Maybe I'm overreacting by having them this high, but I have the Stampeders at the spot. Who do you got at 5?
I have them there as well. When I originally wrote it, I had Ottawa, then Calgary, then I scratched out and switched them. Because the win wasn't pretty, but I like their commitment to the run in 3-down football. And I like the fact that this was a Winnipeg team that's just desperate, and they were able to stick with it and win the game. And I think that said something.
Yeah. Huge interception there late. I feel like this is the chalky part now. At number 4, I have the Saskatchewan Roughriders with the news of the injury to Mayer. Wait, not Mayer. Harris.
Yep.
Yeah, Harris. I'm much more weary moving forward. The Shea Patterson needs to prove it to me, but I think they've been a magical ride thus far. Who do you got at number 4?
Yeah, I hate that injury because I was just starting to believe in Saskatchewan, but I do not believe in Shea Patterson at all. I've never been impressed with him. And so yeah, I got them at 4 as well. He's got a lot to prove before I can put him back. I had him at 2 last week. He's got a lot to prove to keep him there.
Completely agree. And now the big one. I think the biggest argument on this whole entire power rankings thing, and I bet you if you ask the Reddits, all right, I think the biggest question would be, who do you have at 2 and who do you have at 3?
I hear there's rumors on the internets.
I still have the BC Lions at 3, but they've looked really fucking good ever since that game against Toronto. But there was a head-to-head, and I do think Toronto's D line is super legit. So I still have the BC Lions at 3, even though I thought long and hard. I'll be honest. I scratched out. This is the only thing I scratched out. Was for a second I put BC at 2, and then I go, the line play for Toronto is just too impressive for me. I can't get over that yet, even though it was week 1. But BC at 3. Who do you got at 3?
I have Toronto, and maybe this is part of me saying fuck the fact that they're still starting Cameron Dukes. He's looked good. He struggled against that Montreal defense, but
a lot of people have struggled.
Yeah, exactly. For me, like I said, Vernon Adams, most exciting quarterback to watch in the league. I think they're onto something here, and they're starting their win streak, and I think it's going to go for a while. So I put Toronto at 3 and BC at 2.
Yeah, I understand it. Like I said, I almost did it. Number 1, the elephant in the room, the Alouettes. Can they make it back-to-back Grey Cup championships? We'll talk about it, folks. We'll be back. What are we doing tomorrow night, right?
Yeah.
Tomorrow night, we're back picking week 5. Man, we're already in week 5. I love some CFL action, folks. But yeah, so tomorrow, week 5 preview picks and DFS. Subscribe to the CFL Gambling Podcast wherever you get podcasts, and please tell a friend. Sometimes it's funny. I have some friends I grew up with, and they didn't really get into CFL, and I never really told them to check it out. And then I told them recently, I think it was last season, they should give it a try because they were looking for sports. And now he thanks me all the time. He's like, dude, CFL action's awesome. Tell a friend. Check out the CFL Gambling Podcast. I think we can be a gateway drug into this beautiful sport. Beautiful league. So do that, but also check out, and by the way, we're on Twitter at CFL Gambling Pod. Give us a follow there. YouTube.com. Once again, CFL Gambling Podcast. Do all that. Hit that subscribe and like button. It all helps us more than you realize, folks. But also give J Mark a follow on Twitter at JMark Football. Check out the Old Fashioned Football Podcast. Highly recommend that. What do you guys got going on there with that?
So, I mean, we're working our way. We're almost done with division previews, but tune in July 17th. Set your calendars. We have an interview, live interview. It's our first live interview with a distiller, and he's ready to answer questions from the chat. So hop in the chat and ask questions that you've wondered about distilling whiskey and sipping on some of their special stuff that's new right now. We're going to be talking about that and reviewing it as well.
Hell yeah. I mean, come on, Canada. Come on, Americans. Listen to this in, wherever, that this thing is whiskey and just distilling shit. Like how many, I feel like I can't go like a city block without seeing a distillery these days. So instead of just sitting there consuming, learn a little something about it. All right. And they talk football and whiskey and other, it's just perfect. All right. Check out the Old Fashioned Football Podcast, folks, and give J Mark a follow on Twitter at JMark Football. I'm on Twitter at TheCobyD. Check out the college football experiences. I break down all 134 college football teams. Also check out the Stadium Heads podcast where we talk about college football stadiums and why they're the greatest thing to ever hit fucking planet Earth. Check out all that shit. All right. FCS college football experience, UFL Gambling Podcast I host with CJ and J Mark here. I know we prefer the CFL, but hey, maybe you like the UFL too. Check it out. Yeah, until next time. You got about 24 hours, 26 hours, 24 hours, something like that. All right. CFL Gambling Podcast coming your way. We're not stopping. Our DFS lineups have been killing it. If no one plays my DFS lineup this week, I'm going to take it as I'm just going to stop giving away free money. All right. I'm going to stop. Until next time, folks, this is the CFL Gambling Podcast Week 4 reaction show and power rankings. You better start thinking about yours. Run.